Okay, guys, this is it. We're live, and everybody is talking about Christmas and silver. But before we start,
Hi, Dean. How you doing? It's good to see you again, Dean. Hi, guys. Sit down.
sit down because today we're going to talk about why. You see that picture right there, Jessica?
Yeah. It says, I am sorry.
The GB was in court and selling Kingdom House. And that's his response to Jesus saying, I told my people to buy silver at $25. Now it's at 100. Jesse, Dan, who am I talking to today? Don
Plata.
Don Plata. Don, it's going to hit 100 before the end of the year. And my fear is, being a Mexican American, it was the 1st of January when they did the reset in Mexico back in 92, 93. So yes, Merry Christmas, and yes. And maybe Jesus will forgive me for putting that thing right there, making fun of the Jehovah's Witnesses, that they didn't get the memo to buy at 25. But going back to my point, what was my point that I was making?
Well, you're saying that, and in your video, we're talking, this is an economics class. We know it's Christmas, but we have some hardcore economic data we got to share with everybody. Because everybody that was raised around us and like us, we never were taught economics at the Kingdom Hall.
No.
So now silver's at $75. You know what? On AppMex, it was trading at $80.
Yeah. And here's the thing. What people don't know, that whatever you see on silver, it's not true, because on the other side of the earth in China, they're selling it for $5, $6 more. So you say, well, how could that be? What does that mean? Well, in a normal world, you would go to New York or Chicago, get the silver, put it on an airplane, take it over to Shanghai, and 1 million ounces, it's $6 million, because you're making $6 an ounce. So minus your carrying costs, that's a lot of money. But what's happening this time is that New York City and Chicago is selling you paper, and Shanghai is selling you the real deal. Mexico, China come out. Guess what they announced? China, beginning of the year. If you go to China, say to visit, and you go to the store and you buy yourself a nice herringbone necklace made out of silver, when you get to the airport, they're not going to let you take that back to the United States. It ain't leaving.
So are they nationalizing silver?
It's staying. Almost all of the countries. That's a
form of nationalization, huh?
They want to just keep it they want to keep it, because you can also count the silver. When the United States talks about how much gold they have in Fort Knox, technically, when you think about it, they can say, well, whatever gold the public has, whatever silver the public has, it's ours, because they own everything. So it's in the country's best interest in economic reset times like the one we're living in. Mexico's doing the same thing. Mexico's saying you could do whatever you want now in the New York Stock Exchange. We don't care. The silver stays in Mexico. Guess what? That's like if the Africans were to say, you know what? You could say whatever you want about chocolate. The chocolate beans are staying in Africa. Right? So let's say, for example, mangoes for some reason cure cancer. And Mexico's like, it ain't leaving until it goes through our hands. They're realizing that they have something. They have something, and the markets are telling us, one, New York and Chicago are liars. And Samsung came out with that technology,
battery technology,
where you can buy an electric vehicle. Jesse, you could buy an electric vehicle. They're talking 20 years. That battery will work for 20 years.
But Gilbert, it's going to add over 1 kilo of silver.
I know, but that's causing all of the commotion. That's causing on. So we're not. I'm not predicting anything. I'm just saying that these are very monumental times. The writing was on the wall, and Watchtower Jehovah's organization was nowhere to be found. So if you think that you could add some value to this show, or you just want to talk about Christmas, I went ahead and overruled my brother Jesse because we don't like to have people on our show. But if you want to come on the show, you're more than welcome to.
Well, no, I like people on the show, but I
Mhm.
just don't like people that are wrong on the show. And so they're
Mhm.
wrong, we're right. And
That's
so, but today I understand you're pulling your rank. You are the GG for GB. So you're
Mhm.
inviting anybody who wants to come on the show. Come on. They could change the subject because we're going to be talking mainly about economics. But if they want to talk about Christmas or anything, they could, as long as it's acceptable to the GB, right? Right.
Correct.
Okay.
So
So let me start off.
Okay,
Let
let's
me
just
just
start
start
off
off
real
with
quick.
the
Do you
1
think?
ounce.
Do you think silver will hit 100 before the year's end? I say yes.
That's what well, you said it on your video. I don't think so. Wow, mathematically, we're talking $30. Okay. It was at 72 in New York, right?
Mhm.
The COMEX was
Yes.
72. Okay. But the nights before, it was at 68, 67, 68, 69. So let's say it's gone up $1.50 or $1.40 each night, $1.40 each night for the last week.
Mhm.
So how many? We got 5 working days till New Year's?
Mhm.
No, not even. Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We got 4 working days that the markets will be open. 4 working days. 5 if you count the Asian markets. So let's just say 5 theoretical in the whole planet. At $1.40, at $1.40, that's 5. That's $7. We're at 72. If the trend continues the same way, we will be around $80. I don't see $100. I think there would be a sense of fear. I don't know what word to use, but if it hits 100, the market is reacting to something artificial in the market.
Correct. You know, one of the things, and there's like a 95% chance that I'm going to be wrong on that one. But here's the other thing too. The other news that is coming out right now. I forget the name of the other bank, but Bank of America, Chase Manhattan Bank, and another one. Uh, um, they just bought like millions and millions of ounces of gold, of silver. But this is the point. Silver guy is talking about it. So the same people, Jesse, the same people that were destroying the market, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, they were betting, saying that silver is only worth $30, only worth, $25. They were shorting it. Now these sons of Jezebels have accumulated in the last 6 weeks millions of ounces. I mean, if anybody is guilty of high crimes and treason, I mean, I think they are it. But one of the most alarming things about the silver trade right now that no one's talking about, in my opinion, is this. Everyone is talking about silver. Samsung, Toyota, Tesla, China. But guess who's eerily quiet? Guess who hasn't said a word?
Russia?
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Yeah.
And that's the part that's kind of scary when you think about it. Of if everything that we're hearing is true, he's quiet. Not because he's dumb, but something is happening behind the scenes.
Something else too about that
Mhm.
point. There is some grumbling that he's about to reset. He's about to do something. So he's not ignorant of the fact that it's going through the roof. He just hasn't spoken on that subject publicly.
Mhm.
And he likes to do things hugely. So maybe, okay, mark it down on my calendar. I would like to make a prediction, and not the cost of gold,
Mhm.
not the price of silver, but I think we're coming in on the 250th anniversary. I was there in the bicentennial. I saw it with my own eyes, and I remember the love affair that us kids had with the bicentennial quarter. I have a prediction that Donald Trump is going to release maybe some kind of silver coin, or he's going to ask the Treasury to print up some kind of silver coin as an anniversary coin for America's 250th birthday.
Yeah. Yeah.
But here's the problem.
Mhm.
The world is in such economic bad shape. Let's say we had a 0.99% quarter. Let's say we came out with a quarter. We couldn't do a quarter because it would be at today's market, it would be worth
$12.
or more. No, not 12.
Mhm.
Quarter of 80, it would be worth $20. Everybody in the whole planet will be hoarding that quarter.
Let's show everybody how uneducated we are because we went to public school. So $10 worth of quarters is $517. That means $1 is worth $51. So 25, 12.50. So $1, 4 quarters is worth $51. That's $12.50 each one, if my math is correct. So and we get that from the last video that I did. So I don't think they would come out with a small denomination like a quarter, but I do
Okay,
think
could they come out with a, like Mexico did in 1968? Could they come out with a 0.722?
they can also come out with a 0.9. The reason you want a 0.9 silver is because the wear and tear makes it nice and hard. So I think you could do it that has no denomination. You can actually mint one that is just the American, like the American eagle.
Yeah, but that takes all the fun away from it.
Correct. But you could put a figure to it, or you could just say that, hey, it's 1 ounce.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, the American gold eagle is not really 1 ounce. It's 1 ounce plus. You have 1 ounce of gold, but they put the copper in there.
But try to remember when we were kids. Mm-hmm. We had the Benjamin Franklin $50. Mm-hmm. We had the Eisenhower $1. And in 64, we had the John F. Kennedy quarter. Do you know how much dollar amount in junk silver it takes to make 1 ounce?
I think
in junk silver, any combination of junk silver
is like 72
at $1.40, $1.40. So you could get 4 quarters and 4 dimes will equal 1. So see, that is doable. Mm-hmm. If we go to a junk silver type, mm-hmm. that's doable.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna do, but I don't know. Everything is doable, yeah. But one thing is for certain, I think the January 1st thing is very significant because we saw it in our lifetime as Mexicans. You wake up one morning and there's a complete new system, like the Jehovah's Witnesses preach, a new system of things. So whether it's brought upon, and I think on this one with the silver thing, it's whoever gets to home base first is going to have the upper hand. It looks like China has the upper hand, but I doubt it. I really think Donald Trump knows what's happening, and it would be foolish of him to let the Chinese try to short squeeze the American population.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to,
and that's the point. That's the point. If we as Americans print up a quarter that's usable in our common currency, where a little boy goes to the bank, 8 years old with his mom and dad, mm-hmm. and asks for a silver quarter, even if it's junk, in 2026, mm-hmm. there will be wealth in the hands of the average citizen.
Correct.
It would elevate the American economy. It would elevate the American consumer. Mm-hmm. It would straighten us over. Now, it would also invite a lot of theft because everybody's going to be hoarding that coin. So it goes back to your video that you did earlier. With the rise of precious metals, inevitably you're going to see a rise in crime or hoarding. Mm-hmm. And nobody talks about that. You notice that? Could it be because we're Mexican Americans?
Correct.
And we know how stupid people act when precious metals go through the roof? They start stealing?
Correct.
Right.
No, that's a great point. Let me I have a thing about the Mexican guy video that he did, and King and Dots put down. I only got 200 ounces. That won't pay for anything. And I told him no, 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 no. 200 ounces at $200 is $40,000. Hold the line. But Aaron says, I beg to differ. During Venezuela's worst hyperinflation, stories from people on the ground said one single ounce bought enough groceries for a family to eat for 2 to 4 months. So 200 ounces back then, as recently as 2018, that's food for a family for 33 to 66 years, basically a lifetime supply. Great point. But I just wanted to also mention that the difference between what Aaron says and this, and I talked to you about this over the phone, the difference between other countries and the United States, check this out. The 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, $100 bill. There's $14.3 billion in circulation. In $100 bills, 18.5 and 20 and so forth. So they're telling you how much money is in actual paper. It's not that much. So a lot of times what happens, Jesse, is there's coinage, there's paper, and then there's digits on a computer. And what we as Americans do is we always get fooled by the language. So whether you're a communist or you're a banker, they always play with the language to deceive people. So you ever heard of the phrase cash is king?
Yes.
So if, let's just say they tell us that the coronal mass ejection happened, okay, but really somebody just turned off the lights. We say, well, you don't have any digits on a computer, but guess what you do have? You have cash, and hence the phrase cash is king. There's a reason why people say cash is king, because at the end of the day, if the digits go away, your cash is still good for I don't know how long, but it's still good. Cash is king. But go ahead.
So $14.3 billion in circulation.
Mm-hmm.
That means, man, they know everything. Now, is that in the United States or in the whole world?
Well, that's what they printed. A lot of that probably, a lot of that goes out. Like of that 1.85 trillion in hundreds, some of it is in Iran that Barack Obama conveniently sent over there. But it still goes to the point that there's digits on a computer, there's cash, and there's gold and silver. And all of that is what we call money. See, so the words don't mean anything until the chickens come home to roost. And that's where we're coming at right now. And this is why it pisses me off so much, because Watchtower and other religions, they don't, not some of your smaller churches, like your Dave Ramsey churches and stuff, they do talk about this stuff. Now, Dave Ramsey, they don't like silver, but there are a lot of small independent churches that do talk about this. But isn't it interesting that you have an organization, this is what we're Jehovah's Witness channel, and you would think that God will protect his people and educate them about what's happening? I mean, and it's like Aaron put out in the comments, this is a difference, Jesse, between life and death. Being able to buy bags of rice, like say, for example, your last paycheck, everything's paid off. And then you say, well, you know what? I'm going to buy I got $500 or $1,000 paycheck, whatever. And I'm going to buy silver. And I'm just going to hide it. And then you live through Venezuela. You have enough money there to buy beans and rice for your whole family because you were prudent, like the Amish. You were prudent, like the Mormons, and you foresaw the future. That you needed to have something, copper, silver, gold, platinum, something of value. Fine furniture, a Picasso painting, something of value. Diamonds. Oh, well, diamonds right now we don't know because now they're being made in a lab. But you park your money into something that you can touch. Why? So you could preserve your life in a time of war, in a time of need. And this is where the religions have been derelict of duty. And this is an interesting point because very few people know what this guy's talking about. Less than half of 1% of the people in the United States, I would venture to say that a third or a quarter of 1% know anything about Samsung and silver.
Gilbert,
And
let me just tell you an anecdote to this. I'm an air conditioning contractor, and I buy Mitsubishi and Samsung heat pumps. So my mid-tier mini split is Samsung, and it's a mid-tier unit considered, even though they're very strong in compressor technology. And Mitsubishi is the Cadillac of the mini split business. And then you have your cheap Chinese and Mexican imports in the United States. But so I was talking to my Samsung dealer, my distributor, and I was talking to him about this battery. And he's my Samsung rep. And he's always pushing me to sell more and more and more of the latest technology. If his life depended on it, to just find 1 gram of knowledge of what the Samsung battery, it wasn't going to happen. He knew absolutely nothing about it. And this is a person connected indirectly with Samsung. He's a distributor of their product.
There's something also huge in this comment. Look at what Samsung has just done. They went into Mexico to work directly with the silver mines so that they can have a direct user connection to avoid market prices. No. Almost. Let me tell you my take on it. This is up your alley. You're a small business and you have to buy air conditioners via distributor. But eventually you get very good at your business in air conditioning and you start opening up shops in every city in Arizona. You become so good and so proficient that you have 2 options. You could build an air conditioning factory, or you could just make handshake deals with the air conditioning factory. You have 2 options. Samsung, what this shows, Jesse, is that the game has changed. Samsung doesn't need the New York Stock Exchange. They don't need the COMEX. They can go direct. They don't need Chase Bank. They don't need Bank of America. That's how big these companies have become. They've become so big that the people that used to referee the game, the people that used to hold the casinos, the big boys, they're no longer the big boys. They met their match. And so I don't know or pretend to know what's going to happen or what this means. I'm just saying that you have new players, in the game. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. I look at it through a different angle, a historical angle, and a hypocritical angle. Me being a Mexican American and knowing fundamentally all our lives that Mexico is a quasi-communist socialist, especially when it comes to mineral rights. We all know that the Mexicans citizen has no rights in Mexico. A citizen has, let me repeat this. Mexicans have no rights in Mexico. Americans live in perpetual 1,000,000% freedom in comparison to our Mexican counterparts. Mm-hmm. So the mines don't belong to a company or a corporation. Mm-hmm. Everything at the end of the day goes through the federal government. Mm-hmm. It was collectivized sometime in the 1930s under Cárdenas. He was a socialist. Mm-hmm. So the mineral rights belong to the government. So first of all, let's just establish the fact. Samsung did not go to those mines. The Samsung companies now with the communist governments that they have left-wing is having partnership with the Mexican governments, kind of acing the American companies out.
But nonetheless, you have to be one big badass player to do that.
Yeah.
And how many big badass players are there? There's a whole bunch of them, is the point. And it puts these American banks in a situation that they've never been, in my opinion. I don't pretend to know. Now, the part that really pisses me off, Jesse, is that look at this price.
Wait. Let's before we go there, before we go to the price, address the last comment.
About the
And
big.
he's right, but he's wrong. And I'll explain why I think he's wrong, but he is right.
The only way that the market shift occurs to the negative is with the nationalization of silver.
Not necessarily. Yeah, I understand what he's saying. He's right. He's right that it will be a negative effect downward. Yes, it will. Yes. But they will achieve nationalization without nationalization. For example, you go to China and nobody in the free trade, see the hypocrisy? You go over there and buy a silver necklace, you can't export it, you can't wear it. So it's already nationalized. So the governments are so corrupt. They have a way of achieving nationalization without achieving nationalization, and it won't have that complete negative effect. Now, if they came out and said, you know what, we're going to have nationalization and confiscation, yes, it would have a negative effect. But they're going to do it through taxation, through import, export laws. They're going to nationalize it other ways.
Correct. And one way that has been done before all of this happened, and it was still active, because I remember about 7 years ago, all of the big players, they were small players back then in YouTube. Just a small handful of people. They would get like 600-700 views. Now they get like 40,000-50,000 in the first day. Big names. And they were like in a chat like this. And I kept on the chat. So they finally got tired of me. I go, well, if all this is true, then why does Vladimir Putin allow silver to leave? Well, what happens is this: every country is pretty much the same. That every ounce of gold, silver, or whatever that comes out of the ground, every nation has first dibs. That's what I learned. So it's kind of like in a bidding process.
Mineral rights.
Yeah. So the United States government or China or Russia, when that comes out of the ground, they have the first opportunity to buy. If they say, I'll pass, then it goes to the open market. So that to go to this guy, it is a form of nationalization of silver. It's just, it's never been enforced like it's being enforced now. We're seeing a different, but that's a good point. China requires a special approval for any, exactly, kind of like what I was just saying. So this is the part that was really freaking me out. This is a $10 roll of quarters, $10, Jesse. It's now at $517.
What year?
No, just a roll of quarters pre-1963.
Junk.
Junk silver, constitutional silver. So when this happens, this goes to my Mexican. If a lot of people don't, if you don't know what Mexican guy is, if you don't know why I did a video, I called it Mexican guy. I mean, you're not up to speed of what's happening in the silver market, and that's okay. And we ain't got time right now to tell you why it's called Mexican guy. But I decided to tell you what the flip side of the story is. When silver hits $500 for a single roll of quarters.
Whoa, stop right there. Right now we're at 72.16, let's say. You just said what? When what? When silver, junk silver.
A $10 roll is worth $517.
Okay, hold on. I'm just going to do quick math, and I went to Yuma High, so I'm not the best mathematician. Just quick. Quarter should be 25%, right?
Quarters, you get 4 quarters to $1.
One equivalent tube, is that 20 coins?
That's 40 coins.
It should be 20 coins.
No, you get 4 quarters to $1. You got $10. So it's 4 times 10, 40.
40.
So
okay. But so on 20, a quarter would be a quarter of an ounce.
Well, I can do the second picture. Share screen. Oops, cancel. Let me hit present an image. Here you go. So $10 worth of silver, $10 worth of quarters is 7.15 ounces of actual silver weight.
How many?
7 ounces.
Wow. Okay, stop right there. So it's almost 30% of a tube of 1 ounce silvers. One tube is 20 ounces. So it's almost one third. And one tube right now is going for about $1,700.
Jesse, there's not a lot of silver quarters out there, but you know what are out there in everybody's home? A television, computers. You know, in some businesses have their own little servers for their internet in their businesses. So you'll go in, you'll know because you install those small mini splits in a room to keep the room cool, right? So you'll install your air conditioner to keep that room nice and cold because there's a lot of computers and they produce a lot of heat. Well, what do you think the Mexican guy is going to do? He wants that silver that's in all those contacts. They want this. So this is the problem that people don't understand. And this is where Jehovah has done a bad service on the people. They set everybody up for failure. And then also the political side, you voted for this. When people start stealing your computers, your cell phones, your servers, your copper that goes to your house outside, down the street, you voted for this. You voted, and I'm not trying to knock Donald Trump or Congress, but they voted to get rid of the penny when they should have made the penny great again. Because once you start letting these things go so fast, and then you have an immigration problem that Joe Biden allowed to come in. Jesse, this is a cocktail that everybody's not talking about this. They're all talking about the fundamentals. They're talking about the charts, the analysis. They're not talking about the Mexican side. You know, they're not talking about what the hell you think is going to happen to the infrastructure in Minnesota. You think those Somalis are going to let those copper wires just hang out up in the air?
Gilbert, I think they do. I think it falls under the law of unintended consequences. And I think that's where we go. The law of unintended consequences. It happens in it, like free trade, for example. There's winners and losers in free trade. Our libertarian brothers, our communist brothers, or whatever you want to call them, thinking that there's free trade. No, man. I hate to say this, but Ross Perot was right. Bruce Springsteen was right. They're destroying all the factories. America was a big loser in free trade. There's winners and losers in everything. And there are winners, Gilbert. There are winners in the volatile prices of precious metals.
Okay.
The holders of precious metals, the stackers, are winners.
Okay, Jesse.
But they're also going to be losers in the law of unintended consequences. Yes, I understand what you're saying. And nobody talks about that.
Correct. And the other thing what people are not talking about, they're trying to blame China. I'm not blaming China. Look, you mentioned something really important about factories. You're a business owner. So you have to worry about what jobs your employees are going to have Friday after Christmas, Monday after Christmas. You're thinking about that. And you have to, because you have to keep everybody working, because you can't have future orders if your employees are quitting on you or if you're sending them home. So put yourself in a situation. You're a Chinese just business owner. You just work at a factory, and you have to put 1,000 TVs out. That's your job. I'm in charge of the plant. I'm not a communist. I'm just a dude, a Chinese dude. And I have to make 1,000 TVs a day. And all of my televisions or computer, desktops, they have silver contacts. And then I'm watching the news and I'm talking to my distributors and I'm seeing what's happening with silver. I don't give a shit what New York says. The hell with them. I need that silver, and I'm going to get it from Shanghai, and I'm going to pay more money for it. It's called backwardation, where I'm paying more money for it now than I can get it in the future. And the reason why is because I have a vault in my factory, and I'm going to put that silver in the vault. and it's going to be 1 year supply, 2 year supply, and it's cheaper for me to have it here, and I can continue making those TVs. Now the TV is going to go up 50 cents, $1, $2. It's not going to break the TV sale. And then like the soldering that you do, not the soldering that you do with silver. You got 15% silver solder, but you also got the cheap one at 5. So
And zero.
some of the factories will probably buy the silver and then dilute it down with a different metal, right? 90, 80, 70.
Yes, stop.
Go ahead.
But the American tradesman, the American consumer, the American worker knows it up front. There's price discovery, there's equipment discovery, there's product discovery. That doesn't exist in China. It does. But there's a lot of counterfeit in China, more than anywhere else. In China, it has grade 1. The best products coming out of the world could be coming out of China. But they also have a very bad problem with counterfeitism. So you make a deal for a silver contact that you're talking about on their electrical switches. And let's say you're a switch manufacturer in the United States and you want it built in China to save money. And you ship over 1,000 kilos of silver. Do you think the Chinese, do you trust them? You trust them more than you trust Jesus Christ.
Correct.
You know what they're going to do with that 1,000 pounds of silver?
Yeah.
They're going to come up with a product that we call Chinesium.
No, it's called tofu drag. That's the word out in the street. But the point I mentioned that about China is that the Chinese worker, business owner, we're not, you know how it's easy to just say the Chinese. In reality, it's the collective, the government, the business owner. The Chinese government is allowing 1 billion people to buy silver. Why? Because instead of the government buying silver, they just can let all of their citizens buy silver and gold and confiscate it later. Because you know how they are. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's not like it's easy to say, well, I'm going to blame the Chinese. I'm going to blame the Vietnamese. No. If you're an American manufacturer, you would do the exact same thing. If in your business, Jesse, copper starts skyrocketing, you're going to buy 3, 4, 5 months of copper in advance.
Correct. You know what? That's great. Don't ever
compare.
Remember my brother Joe? What did my brother Joe used to tell you?
Don't ever question the governing body.
Yeah. Don't ever compare the American manufacturer worker to anybody else on the planet. Always remember, I'm telling you this, we are the best.
I know.
And fuck the rest.
I know, but it still doesn't change.
Okay, but no, because I'm talking copper now. I've worked with copper all my life. When I roll a copper, Mueller copper, I know since I was a baby, I was unrolling copper. I know what copper feels like with my eyes closed. And I'm telling you, every other fucking country mixes their copper. It's not the same. It's not the same. And so you can never, so when you say, Jesse, you buy this, you buy that, and yes, everything the American manufacturer contractor buys, he gives to his customer. The same cannot be said about other countries.
I know, but what I'm trying to tell you is that, you know, you're multiplying this by 10,000, 1 million factories, 1 million business owners. So this is a compounded effect. So yeah, I'm with you. I agree with you. I'm just telling you that if you have 10,000 factories that decide to store it themselves, that's going to put a strain in the system. It would be like every air conditioning technician in the United States were to hoard copper and say, we're going to store it ourselves. That would put a kink in the system, a big kink. That's what's happening right now. And
that would be a rapid inflation because you won't be so readily disposed to get rid of it, to use it, because you're going to sell it at a premium. Think about it. It's only common sense. There's a limited supply, and this is the law of supply and demand. I mean, this is economics 101, kindergarten economics. There's a limited supply of this product. The price is going to go through the roof. It doesn't matter what you are, what nation, what industry, the price is going to go through the roof. The mere fact that Samsung announced the battery technology and informed people what this battery technology, that has a great effect on the price. of silver.
And now you understand why they say that the only way to fix rising prices is for prices to rise. Because if the price rise, then you can have true discovery. So we're in a situation now that we don't know who to trust. New York City's lying to you.
It's beautiful because
the Chinese are buying. So you don't know what's happening. And the only way to find out is like Buffett says, the only way to find out who's naked is when the tide goes down. Then you find out who's naked in the ocean.
Correct.
So these prices have to go super high to find out where the problem lied. There's no fix to this problem other than super high prices. I just don't see it because there's a lot of
there's another thing that people don't talk about. I've heard it in a couple of channels, and I've thought the same thing. Do you think Toyota, Ford, and General Motors are just, and do you think Audi and Mercedes-Benz are just going to roll over? Did you think they would just roll over? Do you think that Toyota's engineers are coming up with their own aluminum clad, copper clad? They're coming up with so yes, there will be a market price with the Samsung tech, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. But the free market doesn't say that you have to use silver. There's going to be so much engineering work, product and development done by the other manufacturers for these batteries because it's increasing productivity, efficiency, capacity storage, longevity, and safety. Probably the most important of all 5 of those is safety. Safety, because of the lithium-ion batteries blowing up. If this increases the safety, then more people would be disposed of buying electric vehicles. That in itself is going to raise the need for silver. I just don't like the idea of silver being shipped to China because I've seen it with my own eyes. I have had, the song says, mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. I've seen Chinesium with my own eyes. Have you ever heard, what did you call it, drag?
Tofu drag.
Are you a witness of tofu drag?
We all are.
No, have you seen it with your own eyes? Have you ever heard a motor die? Have you ever chopped an electric motor?
No, but everybody's had something out of China that snaps like metal. It's supposed to be metal. It snaps.
Yeah. I've seen a motor and I've chopped it up with my own eyes, and I've seen the copper turn into Chinese. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen it. And so that's why I have a visceral dislike for anything coming out of China. Now, I know what it is. It's the counterfeit getting into the supply line. It could happen to anybody. Yes. But it happened in every industry. It happened in the sheetrock. It happened in the copper. It happened in the aluminum. It happens everywhere. I say they can't be trusted. That therein comes the Samsung. They're South Korean. They have a lot more trust.
Now here, let me just talk about 2 things on the comment section. And Aaron, although he has a point, rising prices fixes rising prices. But when it comes to monetary metals such as gold, silver, that comes at a high cost. Currency collapse. But see, this is where I kind of disagree. Yes, it is a high cost, but you need to have these rising prices to find out who is naked short, who's lying. For those of you who say, well, what does naked short mean? Who is lying and who has abandoned the fundamental principles of banking. So when all these bankers are just lending everybody money, they're just printing up money and say, here, go play in the stock market, go play this, go play. And there was never a foundation. And they go bankrupt because of rising prices. Then you find out that those people deserve to go bankrupt. Bank of America deserves to go bankrupt, but they're not going to. We'll talk about that another one. And then you have a market correction and a reset. So these things are very important, that it has to happen. It's like a forest fire. You have to have forest fire in order for you to have that new growth in the woods. I don't know if you want to comment on that, but I'll go to the next one. Here's another problem.
No, I do want to comment before you go too far, because you brought up Aaron. But can you post it back up? But the conventional wisdom, all the conventional wisdom would have to agree with Aaron. But I'm not the conventional wisdom. And I'm not the conventional wisdom. And so with all due respect, I would say the currency collapsed. And no. Because you got to understand, the American dollar is not a currency. It's a spirit. It's greater than a currency. Because let's say you have 205 currencies in the world. Let's say you have 209. And in the last 20, 30 years, you had some come collapse. So let's say you had 450. Let's just say. I'm guessing, and I could be way off. None of them touch the heel of the American dollar. You have to give it some respect. For example, if you're a lightweight, you don't get in the ring with Mike Tyson. If you're a lightweight, you don't get in the ring with Muhammad Ali. You're in a different league. You have to have a little bit of respect. So when you say currency collapse, do not bring in the American dollar. I say, did you think we were just going to roll up and die like Zimbabwe, like the Weimar Republic? No, there's something unique. Follow me on this. Let me finish. There's something unique about the American dollar that the whole world wants it. In Germany, for example, in the Weimar Republic, the Germans coveted the Weimar. In Zimbabwe, they coveted the dinar in Iraq. But nobody in East Los Angeles coveted the Weimar dollar. Nobody in Chicago or South Philly coveted the Zimbabwe dollar. It was the other way around. So what I'm saying is we're in great times. We're in great times because we see the first part of Aaron's coming true. We see the precious metals exploding, which would be a sign of currency collapse. But did you think Donald Trump was just going to surrender? Did you think Scott Bessent is just going to surrender? I think we're in for good movements.
Well, no, let me just tell you, the difference is, and I'm going to go back, so I already talked about this, but this is what Aaron doesn't understand, or other people don't understand. When you look at these numbers of the denominations are in circulation, it's only 1.85 trillion, only 125, 230 billion of actual paper. The difference between Weimar and Zimbabwe and everybody else is they actually do print it all up. So all I'm saying is this, Jesse, is that the United States currency is one word. The United States digits on a computer on your ATM, that's a different thing. Now, we all call it the same, the US dollar, but it's not. We have a petrodollar, the euro dollar, we have the digital dollar, we have currency paper. And it's very important to understand all of these things are different because the bankers understand that they're different. And at the end of the day, if the digits go away, the currency, the amount of currency that the United States has printed is nothing like Weimar, nothing like Venezuela, nothing. So in that aspect, you can't put aside that this is not a coincidence. So the United States has printed just enough paper to make sure everything runs like oil. Everything runs fine. If you do go bankrupt, if you do have a freeze, well, all the computer stuff goes away. But you can still run your government with the paper. Do you understand what I'm trying to say, Jesse?
Yes.
That this is not a coincidence because Weimar, they actually had trillions upon trillions upon trillions.
Yes, they had the wheelbarrow full of
wheelbarrow, and they would steal the wheelbarrow, and throw away the cash and keep the wheelbarrow. But this is different. The United States, it's not by a coincidence that has printed just enough money that the gold reserves, the gold that people have in their homes and people have in the government has in Fort Knox, is more than enough to cover the weight of the paper. So people like Aaron and others say, no, that's not true. No, just think about it. We're not talking about all of the federal, the US debt clock. We're talking about actual paper notes, debt notes that are printed. There's enough gold and silver in the American landmass that can back the US currency. And this is going back to what you and I always talk about, the language. This is what they never teach you at church. That this is why it's so important, because they're changing the language, that a man can be a woman is transgender, and this and that, and gender fluid, all of these stupid things. And they're confusing everybody. Well, the banks do the same thing. And so so all I'm saying is this right there is not by coincidence. And so that's another subject for another day. But just I want to get to this. This guy here said, I found it very interesting. Listen to the miners. Well, check it out. Uh, in Mexico, check this out. You're asking a Mexican to work 7 days a week and 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, mining silver, gold, platinum, lead, everything. You're a Mexican working in the camp, and you see gold and silver going up like crazy, and you see all the work that you're doing, and you're not getting a cut. You're not seeing it in your paycheck. What do you think is happening right now in Mexico, Jesse, in Peru? They're putting a wrench in the mining business. So what I'm trying to say is the unintended consequences of $100 silver are being felt everywhere. That, you know how Alex Jones says it's on like Donkey Kong? Jesse, not only are we experiencing it over here, if you're a factory worker, a worker in a mine, they're having problems too, Jesse.
See, this is why I believe that us as the Americans, we're superior than everybody else. Follow me on that.
No, go ahead.
Because in my industry, just from my angle, in my industry, there's snakes like everybody else. And there's profiteers, but the long guys, the guys that have been in there 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years in the trade from Willis Carriers. So look at me. I'm not an old ass, but I've been in the industry 40 years. You got to give that some respect. 40 years. 40 years in my industry. Okay. And the guys that I was brought up with before me that were in there when Willis Carriers time. Well, we always understood that the company has to win. The contractor has to win. The customer has to win. And the co-workers have to win. Everybody, it goes back to your mining, what you were saying about the mining. And that was the neat thing about the middle class in America. We're not Wall Street. We're not making $1 million on each sale. Everybody has to get a profitable wage. Your co-workers, your customers, the company, the contractor, everybody with a C everybody attached to that industry has to win. And what you're seeing in third world countries, the reason they're going to collapse is what you were saying about the miner. They're not taking care of the labor. They're not taking care of the coworkers. In China, they don't take care of the coworkers. They work them. But the difference is in China, they have 1 billion people. They don't care if somebody dies. There's 1 million people outside that fence willing to take that job. So it's a different dynamic altogether. In Mexico, they don't have that.
There's a different dynamic. Okay. Altogether. Great. And so the other thing, going back to the subject of how is it that they missed it? How is it that the Jehovah's Witnesses, being Jehovah's people here on earth, missed the fact that we're going to talk about this? How do they miss? How is it that Mexican guys are able to tell the truth?
I have one. I have an answer for that. I have an answer, and I don't know if you want to dissect it, but I really believe that the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society is like a dog that has no bark. I really think they're inconsequential as a human organization. I think they're good for taking pictures and doing social media posts and looking pretty or sexy or provocative. But outside of any necessary function for human satisfaction or relevance in human events, they are the most inconsequential people on the planet. They mean nothing, and they're suffering a curse because they said they were God's chosen people and they lied in God's name. I believe they have become the last persons in God's voice. It's like a boomerang effect. Everything comes back and haunts them. They are of no relevance. Anything of significance, any news media of significance, Jehovah's Witnesses cannot and are not allowed spiritually, morally, ethically, or in time in the universe to even touch it. You always quote this Bible scripture. Thank you, God. Thank you, Lord, for you have hidden this from the intellectuals and given it to the babes. The Jehovah's Witnesses are the intellectuals. their own self-appointed intellectuals. They're the ones who go up on stage and go, we continue to recommend ourselves, out of their own mouth. And they're suffering the consequence for recommending themselves as God's spoken voice. And so when you talk about economics and silver, and how could God's chosen people not even tell their people? Because they are of absolutely no human significance, consequence in the human conversation. For a person who represents God's kingdom, they have no relevance in God's kingdom.
Mm-hmm. So this Mexican guy was talking about the consequences on the other side. So what is going to happen if they were stealing air conditioners in Phoenix, Arizona at $3 copper a pound? What are they going to do when it's $7, $8, $10?
Well, there's a different dynamic. If we go back in history when it was $3 an hour and there was a lot of stealing, I think those would be under the George W. Bush and the Barack Obama years. And I think a lot of the criminal element right now is scared of being deported. Mm-hmm. So you haven't seen the amount of crime. And so I think there's a fear in the fear of ICE or deportation maybe calms a little bit of the criminal element. I could be wrong, but I think you're not seeing it like you were in the old days. Mm-hmm. You're not seeing it as much. The brazen theft. Mm-hmm. Could that be it?
Yeah, but here's the thing. I talked about it in the video. When they opened up, it was the crown jewel, this beautiful bridge in LA.
It's been sitting in the dark since thieves ripped out the copper wiring that was supposed to power the lights for what should be a brightly lit landmark. We found similar wire theft crime scenes all around the Cahuenga Pass. At night, this neighborhood is so dark, this delivery driver struggled to find the right address. So you can really get a sense of how dark it is. Investigates.
So, oh my God, and this guy. But so you're right, but it doesn't change the fact, Jesse, that
there's a lot of theft going on. Yeah,
there's a lot of theft going on, and then when you bring in the drug element, when Donald Trump talks about the fentanyl that's coming in, that adds to the copper theft.
Here's the thing.
That adds to your catalytic converter. Go ahead.
I really think the people stealing copper are kindergarten thieves. You haven't even gotten to the politicians. You know what? Years ago, when I started my business, there used to be about 17 to 20 mobile home dealers. And a lot of the salespeople in all the dealers in our little town, and our town is probably half the size as it is now. Now there's only 2 or 3 mobile home dealers.
Yeah.
But back then, everybody was on the take. Everybody, if you wanted to get into the industry, you had to pay salesmen under the table, cash. A lot of graft. What do you think Obamacare was all about?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think smelting is all about? What do you think mining is all about? Every industry is about theft and tax evasion and stealing. There's so much stealing going on. For example, in Georgia, the other day, a politician admitted there was 315,000 votes that couldn't be certified. They stole the state. What I'm saying is there's so much stealing going on in the churches. I bet you in the churches, if you were to audit every church, there's more stealing than you can ever steal copper.
Like in Joel Osteen's in the walls when they were remodeling.
Any church. I'm not picking on one church. Yeah. But I've seen it with our own eyes in our industry. Mm-hmm. And when you didn't play, I remember there was this one ex-Jehovah's Witness guy. You used to have to pay him $100 per house he used to sell, and we sell an air conditioner. He wanted $100 under the table. We told him we couldn't do that because we report every dollar that we make to the government. We're trying to run a legitimate business here. He hated me I felt my life threatened sometimes around him.
Mhm.
He hated me to death. And we came from a common background, Jehovah's Witnesses. But I remember I felt my life threatened around him because we wouldn't participate in cash under the table. Every one of those persons in my town, Yuma, Arizona, is out of business. All of them.
Mhm.
All those manufactured home dealers are out of business. Only the businesses that didn't participate in the graft 20, 30, 40 years later are still in business.
Mhm. Okay, but
So,
the point,
yeah, but what I'm saying is about the copper theft. The copper theft. I'm not too worried about the copper theft. I think it's so minuscule. I would be more worried about, let's say, the copper theft, and they do $10,000 worth of damage on a circuit. That's going to go to bid to the city, and it's going to cost $100,000 to replace.
that's what I said in the video. See, this thing, see, lies have consequences, is the point. This is where the religions have failed people. The religions have failed that because they have abandoned fundamentals of accounting, fundamentals of banking, fundamentals of religion, just fundamentals. They've abandoned fundamentals. This is what you have. And the $100 silver that's coming is only going to add fuel to the fire. It's just going to accelerate everything. But the good news is that this does lead to very bad things, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, you know, if the pain hopefully gets resolved. It's like I said about, remember Jesus Christ. Yeah, he's king, like Ruby said in the very beginning, but he had to go through hell on earth, first. So this is where we're at in this moment in time, where this $100 silver is really a wake-up call to everybody, and the religious leaders and the political leaders, but in our case, the religious leaders are derelict of duty on a very massive scale.
Yeah.
Do you understand the point I'm trying to get at?
Yes, I do. But I also think that we're in a beautiful time.
That's what I just
John
said.
F. Kennedy, in his inauguration, I agree with you. In his inauguration address, he thought that nobody in any other time would give their lives in exchange for the time that they lived in. And I think most people in all generations think the same thing. The call to do right by your government has never been greater. The call to be faithful to God has never been greater. The greatest opportunity to, like Jesus said, let your light shine has never been greater. There's so much theft and corruption that now it's easy to shine your light. It's easy for your light to be seen because we live in a world of darkness. We literally live in a world of darkness, moral, physical, spiritual, you name it. Electrical, when they steal your electrical, literal darkness. So now is the greatest time, I think, for a Christian or American, a businessman. He can easily stand out if he stays true to the things his mom and dad taught him, things his grandparents stood for, the things that Christians stood for, the things Americans stood for. The things that Martin Luther King said, hey, we came to cash that check. If we live to back up that check, I think it's the greatest time. It's a great time of opportunity. Mm-hmm. John F. Kennedy used to call it the new frontier. And I was always inspired by that, a new frontier. Why would you want to go to a new frontier when we come from America? Mm-hmm. And then he answered that question when he ran against Richard Milhouse Nixon, when he said, he admitted that he loved and he really respected Dwight David Eisenhower and Richard Nixon. Mm-hmm. But he said, we can do better. And that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of people doing good and a lot of people doing bad, but we could do better. And we can inspire other people to do better. For example, let's take the Jehovah's Witness. They're over here talking about paradise, earth, and everything. Hey, but you know what? As a religious person, we could do better. We could tell that person whether Armageddon comes or not, we could live a Christian life and make the experience of our neighbors better on this earth. Mm-hmm. Jesus says not to build up treasures in heaven, like you told Rick Fearon the other day. Jehovah's Witnesses don't live their lives like that. They want their paradise earth. To hell with everybody else. If there was a line to get in paradise earth, I really believe Jehovah's Witnesses would kill to get to the front of the line. Totally opposite what Jesus commanded. And it goes to answer your question. I know it was a little bit long-winded, but it goes to your answer. Why did the Jehovah's Witnesses not talk about economic security or economic education? Because they're a totally worthless organization. They're like a dog, a guard dog with no bark. Well, nobody's going to be waking up. You know, they're 100% insignificance.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take issue with Aaron here, because Aaron is in the beginning when it says a lot of confidence doesn't care if it's paper, digital, nothing. See, we're never going to have a utopia in America, and I got to get that through Aaron's.
A loss of confidence. What? I didn't read that.
Well, we're never going to have paradise Earth, or we're never going to have 100% a loyalty to the Constitution or perfect system of government in America. So the loss of confidence, all that stuff, it's just not going to happen. We're never going to have full confidence.
Correct.
But here's the point I'm trying to make. Central banks are betting against their own system by buying gold, and that tells you everything you need to know. That's true. The point that I take with this is it would be the dumbest thing for Donald Trump to do to not go in and take the spirit of Theodore Roosevelt, who's on Mount Rushmore, the trust buster, and to say right there at the very end, these banks are betting against their own system by buying gold. And that tells you everything you need to know. Bank of America and JP Morgan Chase have been betting for decades and manipulating the price of silver down, ripping off all of the miners, ripping off all of just everybody. But here's the point. Now, in the last 6 weeks, they have amassed in physical, not paper, the very same people that were yelling and screaming and betting money, other people's money, and bringing the price of silver down are now the ones that are major physical holders of silver in America. And if the president of the United States doesn't open up a can of whoop ass and say, listen, you MFers, you guys did this for 30 years. We fined you over $1 billion, JP Morgan Chase, for manipulating and lying and spoofing. And now all of a sudden, you turn the tables and you guys are in possession of the things that you guys been betting against. This is a perfect opportunity for a state, and I don't think, I'm not one for statism, but if Donald Trump doesn't go Theodore Roosevelt, I think it's a total loss on part of Donald Trump. Well, because these people have, to me, it is an act of treason on the American people, what these major banks have done. Right. JP Morgan Chase and Bank of America. Go ahead.
Okay. I agree with everything you said. I just disagree with the word doesn't. Let's say I agree with everything you said. So I'm like 99.9% silver. Remember that Mexican Libertad that you and I have a crush on because she's topless? I mean, that girl is hot, right? Okay. So we like her. So I'm at 99.99% purity with you. I agree with you. I just don't like when you use the word if Donald Trump doesn't. Follow me on this.
No.
Let's wait. Just follow me. Let's not be dogmatic, and let's keep look at the end of the day. Look at a dogma. Do you want to end up like Ben Shapiro? Do you want to end up like Rand Paul?
No, this is where you're wrong.
Wait, follow me.
No. Theodore Roosevelt is on Mount Rushmore. Ben Shapiro is in my toilet.
Right.
There's two different things. There's a reason why Theodore Roosevelt is on Mount Rushmore. He's a trust buster. There's no way going to let those bankers or those men be more powerful than we, the people. And so that's where you're wrong.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
To put down that the American people will always reign supreme, and the hell with the Ben Shapiros and all that shit. No, he needs to channel not only George Washington, but Theodore Roosevelt, who's on Mount Rushmore, and then his case will be there.
Yes, but let's talk about Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt failed on his third attempt at the White House in the Bull Moose Party, and he probably died bitter. Follow me.
But
and I think that's where I'm going. This is why I'm going to the word doesn't. I don't disagree with you economically in the Bull Moose Party. I don't disagree with you in Theodore Roosevelt and the trust busters and the monopoly busters. I agree with you. All I'm saying is that there's a phenomenon happening in America now. If we don't get our 100% way, we're going to act like Candace Owens. We're going to act like Liz Harris. We're going to act like Ben Shapiro, where we're going to burn up the ship. There's a lot of bitches in America right now.
Yeah, but
follow me.
No, I'm not gonna follow you because I'm not like them.
No, I mean, follow me in my argument. Just listen to my argument. Yeah. Let's be happy, good or bad. We lived a great life. Good or bad, whatever it takes. Remember, when you get married, it goes in good or bad, in sickness and in health. That's what America is. We don't have to be dogmatic. We don't have to win every argument. We have to inspire. We have to inspire the next generation of Americans, because the next generations of America are sons of bitches. They are angry. A lot of them are angry. Not all of them. They are the Candace Owens and the Ben Shapiros and the Nick Fuentes. They want our heads in they want our heads in a silver plate. And then they're going to take it down to the COMEX and get funded for that silver plate.
Okay.
But there's no, so what I'm saying, when you say Donald Trump doesn't have, no, he doesn't have to do
Yes, he does. Let me tell you why. Because listen, this is what you don't understand. This is JP Morgan Chase, and that's you. Okay. JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, they're the dinosaurs. And what do? They eat humans. Theodore Roosevelt said, no, this can't be. And this is what we're finding out in my opinion, in the silver trade. The dinosaurs have to go. Now, I'm just saying it's a wasted opportunity if Donald Trump doesn't kill the dinosaurs. Kill the dinosaurs. That's all I'm saying.
All I'm saying is this: when you stay busy serving mankind to leave this earth a better place, and you're happy, and you have confidence that Donald Trump is going to do that our elected officials, that we pick the right course, and that we're training the other generation, there is a happiness when you just let go. Some things are out of our control. What I'm saying is, you could see the lines in people's face when they don't get their way. You could see Ben Shapiro aging. You could see Candace Owen aging when they don't get their way. And they get angrier and angrier and angrier. Yes, there's going to be better days, but the best day is not counted. What did Winston Churchill say? The destiny of man cannot be measured in material computations. The destiny of man is not going to be measured in our fiscal responsibility or not fiscal responsibility. It's not going to be measured in our debt. It's going to be, did we leave this planet a better place? Did we serve our brothers? Look, the love of Jesus Christ, we're in Christmas. And let me just finish this. Think about this. Think about the debt that humanity owns. Jesus being the creator and humanity being subordinate as a created being came and lowered himself. How much debt did Jesus have? Difference. How much debt did humanity have towards Jesus Christ? And yet he gave his love. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. So what I'm saying is, sometimes there's things we can never repay. Never.
No.
But that doesn't mean you don't. No, because it's a spiritual fight that we're having.
No. Because at the end of the day, there's if Donald Trump dies, he either died fighting for the truth or not. And that's all we're saying is, Donald Trump, you got one opportunity, and that damn opportunity is you better make it right. Now we're not going to send him to hell.
Well, let me break.
No. See, this is why people are upset and they call you a boomer, even though you're not a boomer, because at the end of the day, people have to be held accountable. And guess what? So you're saying all this stuff about Jesus, yada, 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 love. Yeah. But don't give me that shit, because a few years after Jesus died, the whole freaking city of Jerusalem paid a price. And this is what the American people are saying. Damn it. There has to be consequences for this action. $100 silver is going to cause a lot of mayhem. And it doesn't have to be this way, because when we had silver in our quarters, the United States looked like the Norman Rockwell paintings. It was a beautiful country. But because people are liars and they don't go to jail and they don't get punished, then we have the homelessness on the street. We have the fentanyl on the street. All we are saying is don't give peace a chance. We're asking Donald Trump to speak softly and carry a big stick like Theodore Roosevelt and start opening up a can of whoop ass. And that's where you and I disagree. Because at the end of the day, you're talking about love. And I'm saying enough with love. You have to open up a goddamn can of whoop ass.
No, the can of whoop ass comes natural. It's a default of love.
Okay. Yeah.
It's going to be a default because you
It's
have to
weird.
have an allegiance to a country. United we stand, divided we fall. If we don't have that, you can't have what you just said. Let's say Donald Trump orders everybody in the Department of Justice to open up a can of whoop ass. You know what those fuckers are going to do as soon as they leave his office?
Yeah, they're going to
They're
come after us.
They're not going to listen to him. Nobody, because they don't do a pledge of allegiance. They have no love of country. They don't have no love of self. They chop off and mutilate. They go tattoo themselves all up. You want them to tattoo their arm and then go and have allegiance to a flag? They don't even have allegiance to their body. There has to be love. There has to be a foundation upon which you could build on. You're calling for a revolution of law and order.
For a revolution. But
Or
even
you,
Jesse, even Jesus himself had Jerusalem destroyed. And he gave them ample opportunities to leave. At some point, it has to come to an end.
yes, but this is all I'm saying. Rejoice, because even Jesus didn't get to see Jerusalem paid. Even Moses didn't get to cross into the promised land.
Yeah, but
Even
I'm not Jesus.
that's what I'm saying. You're never going to see the better days.
I'm not saying I will, but damn it, you got to go down saying that this is what needs to be done and standing up for
Gilbert,
justice.
the martyrs of history were not fools. You won't get to see a balanced budget.
But it's not going to happen because people ain't talking. And this is
Exactly. That's all I'm saying. But build your treasures in heaven.
Who is it? Of course I am.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree with you. If Donald Trump opens up a can of whoop ass, good. I'm saying, but I know that we live in an imperfect society. It's not going to happen.
I know that he is. Donald Trump
But
is opening up a can of whoop ass.
but it's not going. It's not going to take my joy away.
Correct.
My joy was in serving the country. My joy was in serving God and my fellow man.
Correct.
Don't let it make you bitter. And that's what I'm saying with this younger generation. You guys want victory at all costs, but maybe the victory wasn't yours. Maybe destiny and fate wasn't calling your name. Maybe it was calling a distant man. Didn't you always used to tell me that when we were kids and we were going to be named elders? That God uses who?
I can't remember.
Yeah, you used to preach it to me all the time. God uses who he wants, the lowliest man. He doesn't choose you because you're, like the Watchtower says, we continue to appoint ourselves or recommend ourselves. No, that's not how it works. The Holy Spirit moves upon who it wants.
Mm-hmm.
You don't appoint yourself. The Holy Spirit moves things. And that's what I'm saying. The American Revolution is a beautiful revolution. Yes, if Donald Trump opens a can of whoop ass, good. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of people right now, 50% of the Democrats, they protest ICE, for example. They'll put their lives out in the line, but they're the first people to go line up for 10 vaccines. It makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
These people need to be re-educated in love of country, love of civics, love of law and order. How are you going to have them obey the laws that you're talking about, the fiscal laws of nature of economics, when they don't even know the basic laws of biology? We're dealing with a dumbed down population. You have to teach them about love. It's going to be a foundation. Look, what made Bill Clinton and Ronald Reagan so good? What made Bill Clinton and Ronald Reagan so successful in their jobs?
Mm-hmm.
They never stopped teaching. Never stopped teaching. Donald Trump doesn't do that.
Well, other people would tell you that there's a thing called love. It's called tough love. And that's where you don't understand. And that's where this is, even biblically, you can use the Bible however you want. There was a man by the name of Jeremiah. He was opening up a can of whoop ass and he was preaching death and destruction. And guess what? It worked because King Josiah is the one that actually did repent. And King Josiah opened up a can of whoop ass and destroyed all of the false temples. And the destruction that was prophesied on the nation of Israel was suspended, was put aside for a while. And
But Jeremiah proves my point.
The destruction landed in his grandson's reign.
Correct.
Not
That's
him.
my point.
But guess what?
Jeremiah proves my point.
Israel spared life.
Jeremiah did not get to full see. Jeremiah was
I know,
not
but
a witness.
Yeah, but guess what? He extended the life of Israel for another generation.
No,
And
no,
they
no.
didn't-
That
they didn't go-
of
and they didn't go. They
of
didn't,
Syria.
and they didn't go. They didn't go as slaves. They didn't go as slaves. Why?
Yes.
Because there was a king by the name of Josiah who listened. The point I'm trying to say is that the Bible is filled with people that opened up a can of whoop ass. And so whether or not you see it or not is irrelevant. The fact that Donald Trump needs to, and he is, God bless him, with Tom Homan and others. And all we're saying is, damn it.
The Bible is full
Keep opening up
of people who never got their way. It was done God's way. The Bible does not have Frank Sinatra. There was no Frank Sinatras in the Bible. I did it my way. It was never Jeremiah's way. It was never Moses's way.
No.
It was never nobody's. It wasn't Noah's way.
But they weren't.
It was God's way.
Yeah, but
You.
at the end of the day, the argument that people make against you is that your preaching doesn't advance the ball 1 inch forward.
Yes, it does, because Jesus says, if you say one of these,
okay, yeah,
it's a game of inches, not a game. At the end, God will bring about his new kingdom, the kingdom of God. You don't. You just advance the ball an
no
inch
one is
at a
trying
time.
to bring about the damn kingdom. What we're saying is put somebody in fucking jail. Put some motherfucker in jail for what they've done and the lies in New York City.
And they're in.
No, at some point, God damn it, at some point, because if I jaywalk, my ass goes to jail. That's all.
And who told you? I know, but that's called life. Maybe you came, maybe you lived a different life and you chose to come here because you lived in a perfect world and you wanted to mix it up a little bit.
No, because if you don't stand for justice, then
don't stand for justice? We all stand for justice.
Then stand for it, damn it. Say it. And then otherwise you're like a dog chasing his tail.
No, yeah, I agree with you, Gilbert, but this is what I'm saying. When you went into your cussing rant right now, you lost anger. You had an anger, a visceral anger, and it blinds you from all of the things that we have been successful.
True.
All of the things we've been successful. You just totally disregarded SEPCOT in El Salvador. Yeah. You totally disregarded everything, all the advances, the big, beautiful bill.
We need SEPCOT in America. Yeah. SEPCOT in America, and that
will come. But you know what? You want to build Normandy before the conscription.
No. SEPCOT, check this out. For people that don't know, SEPCOT is the only jail. When people leave the jail, they thank the president for having been in jail. Bring SEPCOT to America.
No, I know. And he said it himself to Hillary Clinton today. He said,
I want to go to SEPCOT.
He said she was complaining about it. He goes, okay, I'll let them all go. Just tell me what country will take them all. I'll drop them off.
It was beautiful. I read it. It was gorgeous. So I do believe it can be done because we've already witnessed it. And Bukele in El Salvador is just.
But this is what I'm saying. It cannot be done today in the United States. It cannot. There's too many Democrat activist judges. Anything our elected government does right now will be met with a lawsuit. If Donald Trump were to fart, the Democrats would put a lawsuit against him. And so they're doing the best they can. And you got to be happy.
That's one big ass fart.
No, it could be a small little queef.
Really?
And, yes. And they'll put a lawsuit.
I believe you on that one. Yeah.
All right.
So it's good. So what did your wife say that? Like, why do you, what did she say? Why do you talk to Gilbert after the debate?
Hey, Gilbert.
Girls don't get it, huh?
Let's close this up. We got a few minutes. And today's a special day. Do you mind if we close it up on Christmas? And if anybody, invite your comment section one more time if they want to come on.
Jesus was not born on December 25th. Nimrod was, yeah.
Okay. You know what? Can I address it? I'll start off with that. And I think Christmas is so important more than ever because I look at Christmas as a vacuum. as a
Mhm.
vacuum.
Mhm.
And people go, Jesse, what are you saying? Jesus with a vacuum cleaner? No, 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 no,
Mm.
no, no. That's
I
not
would
what
be-
I'm saying. What I'm saying is when we get rid of Christianity in the United States, do you think the Islamists are going to treat you better? Do you think the homosexuals are going to treat you better? Do you think the communists and the Democrats and the Chinese are going to treat you better? It leaves a vacuum in place, a vacuum in place. And in Western civilization, it's not built for anything other than Jesus Christ. Now, in Western civilization, the way we've built it is not that Jesus was born on December 25th, but it's the day we choose to remember our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the miracle of him coming to earth. Does he think we're stupid and we know that Jesus wasn't born on December 25th? Do the Jehovah's Witnesses think we're stupid and we know there was no Christmas tree? Yes, we know everything that they're saying, but these traditions right now are more important than ever before because they're keeping your lily white liberal booty alive. Look at what's happening in Europe. Look what's happening everywhere where Christians are surrendering. You're always saying, Jesse, why don't you open a can of whooping? What do you think I'm doing with pushing Christmas? I'm at the vanguard of the fight of the Islamists not killing your sorry ass.
Mhm.
And one of the ways we're doing it is by celebrating the traditions that made our country great and our civilization great. Surrendering Christianity here, you will hear calls to prayer in Arabic in your hometown within a few years.
Mhm.
It's all over Texas. It's all over Minneapolis. It's all over many towns.
Mhm.
You get rid of Christmas. You just keep acting like that guy who said Jesus was not born on December 25th. I know Jesus was not born on December 25th, but keep talking like a Jehovah's Witness.
Okay.
And a Islamist is going to be dancing on you on December 25th,
Okay.
like they are in Germany.
Well, I'll agree with you because on this, check this out. Look what it says right there. See, the $69 is a contract in New York City. The $79 right there is Shanghai in the back. So there's a gap. Now, that's all fair and well because it seems to me that today, just today, the day before Christmas, it just so happens that the Chinese are telling the truth right there. But once it's all settled, the Chinese contracts will be way worse than New York City contract ever was. So I understand what you're saying about the vacuum, that like Elvis Presley sang, we have to clean up our backyard because if America doesn't clean up its backyard, the last thing we want is for the COMEX to be in Shanghai. The last thing we want is, and that's why like the New York Stock Exchange is getting its competition. They're moving it to Texas, somewhere in Texas. Texas is opening up a stock exchange. We need that because if these, I understand what you're saying. These people do have to go to jail. There has to be consequences, but it has to stay in America because the alternative is, yeah, Russia will tell us the truth. So will China. Everybody will play fair for a while. But when it's all said and done, it will be 10 times worse if we let it leave our country. I understand that point. I do understand that point. But if we don't fix it, if we don't fix these problems, then the last thing we need is to have what rightfully, what was built in America to go to other countries because it's going to be 10 times worse.
Yeah. You see, when you talk about kicking ass and you talk about I do it, but in a spiritual sense. I believe because I believe we have to be strong. I believe let's look inward. What are we doing? One of the things we do is Christmas because that's what we're at right now. These are the traditions that made our country great, that are part of our grandparents and our parents before us and their parents before us in Mexico and the United States. It's a part of the Western civilization. And it's been 250 years we're doing it. When we let go of it for 1-2 years, the Islamists will turn this into a living hellhole that we can never get out. If we lose freedom here, there's nowhere else left to run. We shall preserve for ourselves this, the last best place, hope for man on earth, or sends our children to 1,000 years of total darkness. And that's what Islam is. 1,000 years of total darkness. And so anytime you hear a Democrat or a communist say happy holidays or whatever, no, you say Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
And that is my fight. That's my Teddy Roosevelt. That's my can of whoop ass. You have to, that is the fight. It's a spiritual fight.
Mm-mm. No one's denying that it's a spiritual fight, but I just say you're wrong. You have to show it. Like the Missouri people, the
I
show me
agree,
state, the
Gilbert.
show me
I
state.
agree with you because you're taking the stand of the Pharisees against Jesus Christ.
No,
Of
what
course,
I'm
he said
saying
he
is
was
this:
wrong. Mhm.
you want to make America great again? If 10 politicians were arrested for insider trading like Nancy Pelosi's, if the head of the banks that have been stealing money via the spoofing would go to jail, if you just put 10, 20 of them in jail, and get rid of all of the jaywalkers, if you know what, people might start rallying with you. But the argument that the Nick Fuentes types, the everybody else is that people see that Tom Homan, God bless his soul, goes into a meatpacking plant, arrests the illegal aliens, gets the children who are working in the meatpacking plant, gets them out of there. But the CEO and the CFO, human resources, nothing happens to them. That's what's pissing people off in America. How do you
Okay.
make America great
Well,
again?
let me answer. You bring up a great
Look, because if you stop the ship on the top, it won't roll downhill.
Okay. Look, I'm going to cuss a little bit because I don't know no other way to put this, but I'm going to tell you straight out. Okay, let me answer that question about Tom Homan.
Yeah.
And let's talk about Charlie Kirk.
God bless his soul.
Assassination.
Tom Homan, yeah.
Okay. So you got a guy like Kash Patel, and you got guys like Candace Owen, and everybody saying that there's a conspiracy to hide his death. We put a fucking guy in there named Kash Patel, and he doesn't want to work with us. Think about that for a second. You call yourself Mexican guy. Do you think your fucking Mexican guy is gonna fix it? Do you think you're better than Kash Patel? Think about it for a second. Do you think all your whining bitch is gonna fix what's happening in the Department of Justice? No. Can't we give the president of the United States, Donald Trump, and Pam Bondi a little bit of leeway that they're dealing with some crazy people, entrenched forces in there? Think about it. They put this guy. Think about this. You got the leader of the department here saying you can't investigate this when we all know there's a conspiracy, but we put this guy in there. Mm-hmm. Don't you think there's a great power that is controlling that guy? So maybe it's better just to shut up and let's let things work out. Because there's nothing your lily white ass can do. There's nothing you can do to clean up the corruption going on there. There's great forces in there that are at war. Mm-hmm. There's great forces that are at war. Light up a joint and smoke it. And chill out a little bit. Groove, baby, groove. No, because you're not going to fix it. Gilbert, if the president can't send Kash Patel in there to fix it, you think some whining bitch in some little town is going to fix it? Mm-mm. With a little microphone? Mm-mm. There's some deep people who don't have allegiance to America. You can't fix the Department of Justice if you don't pledge allegiance to America and mean it. If you don't love your country and mean it. If you don't pray to God and mean it. You have to fix the person first, the human being. Then we could fix Washington. What I'm saying is there's people in our government that hate our government, that hate our country as founded. We have to fix that. There has to be love as a foundation to fix it. You could root out all the evil person. There's still going to be some evil people in there. Mm-hmm. There's some chameleons that are so well entrenched in there. You guys talk about everything that's wrong, all the conspiracies. You think we're stupid and we don't know that you're right? We know that. But do you think Candace Owen is going to fix it if Kash Patel can't? What I'm saying is there's people that are captured in there. And look at before that, there was Jeff Sessions in the Department of Justice. Totally worthless. So something happens. There's people in our government who hate our country. Do you remember that movie, Rambo? When the colonel asked, John, what do you want? John, what do you want? And he goes, I want my country to love me as much as I love it. And there, in essence, is my argument. We cannot fix Washington if we don't love Washington. I love my government. Do I know that there's people that hate our government? Yes. But I believe in the basic American idea that all men are created equal. That's when the corruption started. And that's what makes it so beautiful. The only place on earth that there's no corruption is in God and Jesus Christ, who died for 3 days and saw no corruption. That's how I know he's God. Any other mortal would have saw corruption. That is life. That's biological life. We have corruption. Once the spirit leaves us, the body decays. It's corruption.
Mhm.
Only God and Jesus Christ did not see corruption, do not see corruption. That's the cards that are laid before us. We are living in a corrupt system. Let's play the game and remember, it is a game. Let's be happy. You want to win it at all costs. And what I'm telling you, you're always going to be sad. You're always going to be angry. You're never going to reach nirvana.
I'm not saying I am. I voted for Donald Trump. I vote for him again. But I think Alex Jones is the one that said, I can't remember somebody else. He says, you got to call balls and strikes. And
who's not? But what I'm saying is, you call balls and strikes.
You're not. You're not.
No, you can't. We
Go
put
ahead.
an umpire in there to call balls and strikes, and then there's corruption continues.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? Our department, the only way I see that can be done is the entire department liquidated 100% is the only way. It's full infested of cockroaches. It cannot be fixed.
I know. It's like NASA, huh? They're still with the moon landing stuff. Shit.
The Department of Education, it cannot be fixed. It has to be destroyed, started over, sent back to the states.
Well, that goes back to the $100 silver or the 5,000 on the stuff. It has to happen. You can't fit. What you're saying can't happen. It all has to happen. It all has. It's like
there's a saying: all politics is local. You could have more accountability local than you can 2,000 miles away.
But I'm saying something that the $100 silver and up gives is a light that it's possible that if the whole system crashes, it's to the benefit of the American people. It'll hurt at first. It will hurt at first, but it'll be a godsend, in my opinion. The best thing that can happen is for true price discovery everywhere. Gold to go to 520, whatever, just everything to crash. Because at the end of the day, the dollar will still be here. The American system will still be here.
Gilbert, let me tell you something.
But
let me tell you about
and the Bible is filled with examples of resets, just over and over again. Go ahead.
Okay, now is love the answer? I don't know, but to me, it is the answer. But it does take a combination of love and action. Maybe a marriage between your idea and mine. But let's take this mayor in, I think it's in Maine or it's in the East Coast somewhere, who doesn't speak English. He's a mayor. He goes to court. He's being questioned by the judge, and he takes a translator. He's a mayor of an American city back east. And the fucker doesn't speak English. He's lived in the United States for 40 years, and he doesn't speak English. Do you think he loves America? Now, do you think electoral politics, do you think the Department of Justice, what I'm saying is nothing can fix this. Only a love of country. If you loved your country, you wouldn't have voted for that asshole. If he loved America, he would say, you know what? I'm an asshole. I'm not qualified to be a mayor. He would have a little bit of shame. There has to be love. And it goes to your statement, tough love. Yeah. But love is the foundation. There has to be tough love and there has to be spoken love. You know what? We love America, dude. You can't have a translator in the court with a judge. You have to speak English in the United States of America. United we stand, divided we fall. Everybody knows since the beginning of time, how do you divide a people? You divide the language. This guy is a divider. If he loved America, he would stop. He would get out, fall on his sword, whatever you want to call it. Get the hell out, resign. But he doesn't. And that's where my argument is. Look at this Democrat politician. Look at that Democrat politician.
So I'm advised by counsel for the respondent that they indeed encourage this and substitution and have no objection and waive any objection they would have to the your services as a translator here. The division has a concern and has raised an objection based on the fact that counsel, much like me in my capacity as a hearing officer, don't speak Spanish, and therefore we're unable to decide independently whether questions are being translated both directions from the attorney and from the witness accurately. So I appreciate that objection. I do believe that under the circumstances, without objection from the respondent, we could proceed with your.
Okay, this guy has no love. No love of America, no love of Spanish-speaking people, no love of English-speaking. He's a disgrace. It's all about himself. He can't serve in the capacity of serving an English-speaking nation. So what does he do? He wants that mayor spot. If he really loved the country, he would stand aside and let somebody more qualified do that. He's also a disgrace to the Spanish-speaking community, because how are other people of other languages and other cultures going to see us Spanish-speaking people? That we have a split allegiance. He doesn't have an allegiance to this country. There has to be a love of country in order to start to remedy it, because the other alternatives, there's no law that says that he got to be removed. There's not. You say, let's open up a can of whoop-ass. What whoop-ass are we going to open up? The only whoop-ass we have is to go to the population that voted him in and goes, hey guys, you guys hate America. You voted somebody who's not qualified, who can't speak the language. And only a reasonable debate, a reasonable people, an informed electorate. Mm-hmm. Jefferson talked about an informed electorate. This man can't even speak the informed language. Mm-hmm. He has no love of country, and it has to be said. And that's where my argument about love is. Yeah, and it does have tough love. Mm-hmm. But I have to keep stressing that fact, that word love. Love is the strongest point in the Constitution, strongest word, not found in the Constitution. Because it says, in order to form a more perfect union, that's grounded on love. Everything about that is found for ourselves and our posterity. For example, a child grows up and he goes, you know, my father was the greatest man, but he lived in a generation that never told me he loved me. You talk to a millennial today and you tell them, raise your hand. Any of you whose parents tell you they love you, they all raise their hand. You talk to the boomers, no parents did. When our Constitution was written, parents didn't tell their children they loved them. Mm-hmm. But they did it through action and deed, and it's written all over. And that's what this gentleman doesn't have. Somebody needs to go tell him, you know what, you don't love America. You're a disgrace. Resign. And every Democrat voter that voted in him should be in disgrace, in disbelief. For example, look in Arizona. In Arizona, look in Georgia. The voter withdrawal. What do you do with that? The churches are at fault here too, because you don't hear them talking about that. I bet you, like in Georgia, most of those 315,000 illegal voters, I bet you the majority were probably Christians.
That's true. That's true. Mm. Hey, it's already Christmas somewhere, huh? Back east.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Hey, Gilbert, I don't mean to be belligerent. Remember, like Smurf Girl? Hey, we're belligerent.
Oh, that's funny.
But your point about Jeremiah proved my point. Because Jeremiah was very eloquent in it, but he wasn't able to see the conclusion of his work. And what he wanted to see was Nineveh fall into destruction. But that wasn't what God set out. Mm-hmm. God wanted Nineveh to fall into sackcloth and prayer and fasting and forgiveness and repentance. And that was uniquely not what Jeremiah wanted. So that's all I'm saying. Sometimes, you know, the Rolling Stones have a song. It says, you can't always get what you want. And that's what people don't understand. Mm-hmm. You know, when we were kids, us millennials, we had songs that preached that to us every day in our pop culture. Every day walking to school, we heard songs like, you can't always get what you want, but if you try real hard. Or Lynn Anderson, I beg your pardon, I didn't promise you a rose garden. Along with the sunshine, there's got to be a little rain sometimes. You guys want to see sunshine all the time. And it doesn't work that way. But you continue fighting and you smile. We don't have to be dogmatic. That is the danger. That is the danger when we're dogmatic. You know, Jesus said, Blessed are the confused. You will always preach, blessed are the confused. Mm-hmm. And we don't understand why things don't go the way we want it. Maybe God is marching on. Mm-hmm. Maybe God has a plan for us. We continue to do the work and we continue to preach. Mm-hmm. But if things don't fall our way, we don't lose our happiness.
Mm-hmm. Well, you forgot to mention that with Jeremiah, people did go to jail. Actually, they were killed because Josiah put everybody out of business. So everybody who worshiped the Baal gods and were sacrificing their children, they were put out of business.
Yes, but what I'm talking about, the timeline, the timeline.
What I'm saying is that Jeremiah did open up a can of whoop ass, and
Yes.
I see your point. But but he put everybody out of business, and
yes,
go ahead.
Yeah, and there was sackcloth and repentance,
and people paid for their sins. I mean, people paid for their crimes, their high crimes. And why? Because the king listened to Jeremiah and it got done. So what I'm saying is that Donald Trump listened to the people. Tom Homan is putting them in bars.
But this is what I'm saying. Follow me on this timeline.
I mean, he's deporting them. All we're saying
and
is
the people and the nationalities and the language. Jeremiah spoke uniquely to a group of people in the northern tribes or above the northern tribes that were uniquely not of his race. Nineveh was of the Syrian race. It was not under the Mosaic law in any way, shape, or form. But yet you're talking about Josiah, who were Jude. They were from the tribe of Judah, and they paid the consequences. And they paid the consequences. But look at what's real noteworthy. Who turns to God? People of the law or people who are outside of the law? And that's what's noteworthy. And that's just what's so beautiful of the American experience. You and I, immigrants, or people who are not exactly 100% Americans birth, we have an obligation to be more faithful. We have an obligation to not do the Pledge of Allegiance, but to do it twice. Like when I go somewhere and they say, let's stand up for the pledge. I stand up twice. I'll get up on a chair and they go, Mr. Gonzalez, why you stand? Because, fucker, I'm a naturalized citizen. I got to do better allegiance than you do. And a lot of these new immigrants that are coming, they don't look like that. They have no allegiance to America. And that was going to lead to the days of Josiah. United we stand, divided we fall. And that's what's got to be preached. You talked about it, how the Christians are not preaching. Yeah, they're not preaching economic things that you were talking about, the silver, but they're not also teaching basic things to love your country. And people go, well, we're neutral. Yeah, but the Apostle Paul was an apostle to the nations, not the corporations. He was an apostle to the nations. God understood the nations. He established the nations. And he sent his messenger out to the nations. So the nations are good and bad. And the nations have to hear the message. God sent out Jeremiah to the nations. He didn't send Jeremiah to Israel. He sent him to Israel, to Nineveh, to Syria. And it was an external missionary mission that he sent him to. Yeah, so that's why I'm talking about preaching. It has to be preached. It has to be preached everywhere. It's a beautiful time to be alive.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, 1 hour and 47 minutes. Whoa, way longer than.
Okay, stop right there. So $1.47. That would be junk silver converted to 1 ounce.
I know.
So if you get anything, 140, get anything 140, quarters, dimes, nickels in junk silver, it will be equivalent to a 99.9 in dollar worth of silver, pure silver. That's how great our monetary system was. Pretty neat, huh?
I guess you can put it, if you put it that way.
Not today. Today you get $1.40 and you get mostly plastic.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay, Gilbert.
No, but yeah, it's just, the title says, Jehovah missed the boat. I mean, he had an opportunity to help his people. And it goes back to what I've been saying all along about the dereliction of duty. The $100 silver it's not about money. It's about preparation, preparing people. And that's your job as a religion, to prepare people, protect them, help them, teach them to vote so this doesn't happen. The last thing we want is this to happen, but it's going to happen. And like that Allstate commercial, my middle name is Mayhem, something like that. Yes. So that was my point about Jehovah never saw $100 silver coming. So
yeah,
life would be a lot better if the religious leaders did a better job in educating their people. So that's all.
Hey, Gilbert, let me tell you about a dream. And I think I talked about it a little bit, but let me just share it to you because it's Christmas and I wanted to share. I wrote it down on my notes.
Mm-hmm.
But I talked a little bit and I didn't hear you respond, and you kind of just like blew it off.
No.
But the love
Mm-hmm.
is so great. I mean, I don't think you can put in human terms. It's greater than the speed of light. It's greater than anything, because there's no reason when you see the insignificance of the humans and our planet, when you have the James Webb telescope, for example, and you see the science and the awe. And why would the Son of God come to Earth? Why would God allow? There had to be a love that is so great. For example, when a human being walks in the garden and he sees an ant pile, he kicks it, and his conscience is not even bothered. And he never thinks that ant was his name, Mr. Jones, Mrs. Jones. Never sees him as an equal or somebody worth even crying. But yet, with God in the story of Jesus Christ, it's not understandable, and it cannot be put into human terms, the amount of love that the Creator would have to send him to his creation and subordinate himself and take on the sins of the world to save the world. It just does not make mathematical, spiritual, moral, logical sense. It can only be described in that one word that we have, is love. And that's where I keep saying the word love. And that's what my dream kept telling me. Mm-hmm. The word love says is God. Love is God. And then you start to create mountains when you have that. Then you start to overcome things. Then you start to obey laws. You can't have a human society without the word love. It breaks down. So that's why when I talk about preaching of the word love, is we have an absence of love. We can't build on nothing if we don't have love. You can't ask somebody to learn about silver when they don't love silver. You talk them to love silver, hell, you better get out of his way. He's going to build a damn silver mine. And the same thing happens in any endeavor, in any industry. You make somebody work like a slave, he's going to put a wrench in the system. But you teach him how to love, or you teach him about the love of that industry, he's going to make that industry greater. He's going to expand it. So there's a power of love. There's a power of love. Now, Jesus coupled it with prayer, fasting, and faith. And he said with faith, you can move mountains. So that's why I always bring up love. I don't think anything that Candace Owen, Nick Fuentes is talking about, if they don't mix love into the equation.
Mm-hmm.
And I get ridiculed by my own family. I'm telling you, because sometimes I see my own family has been taken over by these Nick Fuentes types. Mm-hmm. And I see that they have abject disrespect for us.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For the boomers? Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Even though you're not a boomer.
Which, you know what, which let me tell you something. When I get disrespected by Nick Fuentes type, I see it as a badge of honor. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I close my eyes and I see the Cultural Revolution where a 13-year-old kid is beating a 70-year-old shopkeeper. I go, wow. Yeah. Now I know. I always studied about this in school, but I never saw it. But Nick Fuentes, if he had a broom, he would kick my ass with it.
Yeah.
You know, if he had power. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of boomer, man, it's 10:36. Aren't you tired? I got to go to sleep.
No, I could talk about this shit all day, but yeah, we got tired.
Me too. I could.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Gilbert, man. Tell everybody in the comment section, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, remember,
John Mars.
If you're going to collect silver, make sure you have more than 30 pieces.
Well, you know what? That's unique. There has to be something biblically about it.
I don't know.
It's the price of a property. Because then they collected it and bought that property with the 30 pieces of silver. So maybe Jesus was worth to them a price of a property. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody on YouTube has done an analysis on that. Yeah.
On that point, yeah.
Why that was 30? Why not 29? Why not 31? Yeah.
30. Maybe there's a monetary significance of the price of silver, and they tied it to the death of a human being. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, Gilbert.
Okay. All right, man. I'll see you later.
All right. Talk to you later.
Right, buddy. Says, be well, friends. Remember to get some, if you have silver. Yes, buddy. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you in the next one. Yeah.